A. Now, lately I've been thinking of new video ideas to make, since if you go and look at my older videos, all I would really do is just upload a match that I did really well in, and that's really about it. Sometimes I had commentary over it, sometimes I wouldn't, and it wouldn't really have like really any editing or anything. I just upload a match, sometimes have commentary, and that's kind of boring. No one really wants to see that. And I kind of just want to make more non-gameplay videos anyway, since, you know, this channel is just a general overall Splatoon channel. So, and it's kind of been working out with the whole side order stuff. All my side order videos have been doing very well, and even my recent non-side order videos are also doing very well. So I just want to branch out and do more non-gameplay stuff, since I love covering like cut content like you see in the title of this video. I love covering cut content, concept art, and all different types of things. So, and with Splatoon, you know, it's got a lot of content. But like you saw in the title, I'm gonna be going over some unused / cut content in Splatoon 3. Some of this is like pre-release content, so it's not exactly cut. So, and a lot of it has been like tweaked and changed. So even though it's not really cut content, I thought it was still interesting enough to include. And there's quite a bit, if you can see by the runtime of this video, there's quite a bit to go over, which, I mean, I'm not complaining. I like long videos, especially Splatoon videos. So let's not make this any longer. There's a lot of unused / cut stuff in this game. And to start, we have the weapons. And the first one is pretty interesting. So the Tri-Stringer originally wasn't going to have those explosive arrows, or the bottles as I like to call them. And it also was able to hold a charge while it was swimming. Now this may sound familiar because this is how the reflux works. So the gimmicks that the reflux have, or like the mechanics that the reflux has, were originally supposed to be on the Tri-Stringer. So that kind of begs the question, was the reflux created because of these scrapped Tri-Stringer mechanics, I guess? So they wanted to use these, but then they thought of a different idea for Tri-Stringer we have now. And you're like, you know what, let's just turn these unused mechanics into an actual weapon. And I think that's actually pretty cool. So that could be a possibility, or it could have just been swapped, where Tri-Stringer is like reflux like Tri-Stringer. I doubt, since Tri-Stringer is more important weapon. It was the first new weapon we saw for Splatoon 3. It was kind of like a big part of the marketing was, oh, we get a bow and arrow weapon. So I think the Tri-Stringer came first, and then those unused ideas, they still wanted to use them, so reworked it into the reflux. Another thing for both of the stringers, the reflux and the stringer, you can see here on screen, it used to have like a projectile tracer. So kind of like the charger lines, they used to have those, but 3 of them for the 3 shots. That actually looks kind of dope. Okay, that actually looks really cool, but it kind of makes sense why they wouldn't have those, because actually I'm not really too sure, because chargers have them. So it wouldn't really be that different for Tri-Stringer. Maybe it's because it's 3 of them, so it's easier to hit a target. I don't know. But it would have been very interesting to see these projectile tracer lines here. And the next one is about the crab tank, and I'm not really too sure about this one. I think this was an incorrect, but it says the crab tank's design seemed to be originally flatter. There was no inkling seen piloting in the announcement trailer footage, which I'm pretty sure we did see an inkling piloting the crab tank in the very first announcement trailer for Splatoon 3. I could be wrong. I haven't seen the announcement trailer. All right, I haven't gone back and watched it in a while, so I should probably do that for this video. But from what I remember, I'm pretty sure we did see an inkling in the announcement trailer, because they even zoomed in on him and showed it. So that could be a little bit wrong. And this is in the Return of the Mammalians trailer. Some segment of the crab tanks are colored to the writers in color. So nothing too insane. It's just different coloration based on the ink color of your playable character. And prior to the release date reveal trailer, the Big Bubbler's base did not have a squid beacon attached to it. I think we might have seen that in the announcement trailer actually. Again, I'm not sure. I don't even remember what the reveal trailer even looks like. I think the announcement trailer we saw new Agent 3, I guess, on the train, revived to Splatville, and then Splatoon 3 logo, and then it goes into some matches with the new Splatat going over it. I think that was the announcement trailer, right? And then I don't remember what the reveal trailer was. But this game is overall, they kind of used almost all the ideas that they had, at least for the weapons. The only thing different is the tri-stringer and the crab tank, and those were the two newest weapons, are like weapon and special. So of course they were going to be changed around a lot, since it takes a lot more work to tweak a brand new weapon or special than to just change an older one from a different game. But now we get onto the stages, and these ones are pretty interesting. Scorch Gorge was also very different, as you can see in the screenshots. Scorch Gorge was originally much wider and had much more elevation, and the great platforms leading to the center were center aligned. I'm not really too sure what that means. They were center aligned but uneven on both sides, meaning that it could have been the second multiplayer stage to not truly be symmetrical, with the first being Salt Spray Rig. Okay, so I guess the grates on each side, like I said, were center aligned, so they were kind of asymmetrical if you were to take a cross section of the stage. And I guess Salt Spray Rig was as well. I haven't played Splatoon 1, so I don't know anything about Splatoon 1 or the stages. I know most of the weapons, but I don't really know anything about Splatoon 1. I might be getting it soon, and I'm very excited to play that. So if y'all, any of y'all still play Splatoon 1, let me know, because I'm gonna need some people to hop on with. Next we have Eel Tail, and Eel Tail also was a lot wider. We actually saw this in the trailer. I think this was the reveal date trailer when they were showing the matches on Eel Tail. It looked very different. You see the screenshots here, but it's a lot easier to see from the trailer itself. It was a lot bigger, a lot wider, and there was more open space near the bases of each side, and there was more ways to get up there. I really liked the design it had at first. I'm not really too sure why they shrunk it down, but I liked the old Eel Tail we had. And the red rail used in that version was reused for the Splat Zones layout of the stage. Next is Museum d'Alfonso. That one didn't really change too much. It's still relatively the same as it was in the first game, but at the center with the rotating cylinder thing, in the final version it has 3 spokes, I guess, while in the original, the pre-release version, it only had 2. So it's very interesting to see how stages and maps were before release, especially when they were pretty much finished. And even returning stages from older games, they still changed around too, and it wasn't just like a direct port. But next we're getting to unused gear icons. As we know, in the menus when we're choosing our gear or weapons, we have the 2D icons to show what gear or weapon it is. And apparently there are unused 2D icons for the hero mode gear, kind of maybe suggesting that at some point we were going to be able to unlock them for multiplayer. So icons for gear we get in story mode are in the game, they're like in the data and files of the game, but obviously they're clothing we can't wear outside of the story mode, like the orange clothes we can see here, like the golden orange clothes for when we get armor. because the regular yellow outfits we can have after beating the main story in Alterna, but these different colored like orange ones for getting armor, we can't wear these outside of just the story mode. And we have similar gear for original Agent 3 from Splatoon 1. We can see here their outfits and gear are also unobtainable, but they do have icons as well as the enemy Octolings. So perhaps we're going to be able to wear all of these in the game, maybe through Amiibo or just beating the story mode or whatever. So it's pretty cool to see that even though we aren't able to obtain these, they still have their 2D icons. Now next we're getting into a lot of the bigger stuff. There's a lot of stuff about Turf War or Table Turf. Table Turf was changed quite a bit, at least a lot of the icons here. And to start, we can see Callie's Table Turf battle card sleeve used to be very different. It used to be just some basic Splatoon icon of her, like the classic Splatoon icon, and then eventually they decided to change it into one of her album arts. So I think this one looks a lot better than just the icon. And just for clarity, everything on the left is going to be the early versions, and everything on the right is going to be the final version, just so y'all know. Next here we see an Octoling holding the mini Splatling. Now the difference, obviously we can see it's kind of like squished down, so maybe that's just how the image came out. But the difference here is that on the left, the Octoling is wearing the Splatoon 2 exclusive Eminence cuff on the ear. You can see on his left ear right there, he's wearing it in the early version but not in the final version, which would make sense since that's only in Splatoon 2 as of now. So obviously they would have to change it to be more congruent with Splatoon 3. And the next one here is the Octo Trooper. Originally it was just going to be some 2D illustration before they changed it to a 3D cutout. And those are for like the battle icons that are the most different. Here we have a lot more for some of the weapons, starting with the 52 gal. Here on the left you can see the socks are miscolored. The shoes and socks are miscolored from what they actually look like in game now. So it's a small difference, but on the left you can see here the socks are white, while on the right they're like deep blue. A lot of these are minor changes that you kind of have to look for, but they are there and noticeable once you actually notice them. So with these ones here for the sloshing machine, the one on the left doesn't have the streamers coming from the squid banners like the one on the right has. So that was a nice little change they had. This one is even harder to spot with the range blaster. The lenses of the ink tinted goggles have different shadings in the early version than they do in the final version. As you can see, it's just very slightly tinted or shaded higher, shaded brighter. Now this one, it feels like just the more we go on, the longer we go on, the harder these are to notice. Here for the Luna Blaster, the pupils are a bit smaller and they more resemble Marina and Shiver's pupils than just like a regular Octolings or a Table Turf card. So these, again, like I said, these are very minor changes, nothing too insane that you'll notice just by first glance. You'd have to like look hard at some of these to even notice it. Like this next one here, or the Splattershot Pro, all that's really different are the shoes are different colored. On the left you can see it's orange, and on the right it is green. So nothing too insane. And this one's even harder to notice. For the E-liter scope, the shirt is a different color. The button clown shirt is miscolored in the early version. It's more of a pinkish here, where on the right it's more of like a red, at least a darker pink. And as for the squiff here, the squiff itself is miscolored. On the left you can see where the bottle attaches to the the nozzle, the squiff nozzle, I guess, is black, as well as like the end of the bottle. So both ends of the bottle are black in the early version, and in the final version they are gray, bit of a dark gray. Here this one is a lot easier to notice with the slosher. It's just orange instead of purple. That's it. It's colored after the slosher in Splatoon 2, but then, you know, recolored to be more in line with Splatoon 3. So I think that's a pretty cool idea. I love a lot of the Splatoon 2, not symbolism, I guess symbolism, or references in Splatoon 3. And now here, again, just like the slosher, the Explosh resembles the Splatoon 2 coloration. So as you can see, for like the nozzle, I guess, is silver in the early version, while in the final version it's gold. Now as for this one's actually pretty interesting. The tent umbrella on the left, the logo or the colors are more dulled and kind of washed. You can see it's a bit of a lower saturation in the original or in the early versions, but in the final versions it's more saturated, you know, more popping, I guess. And as well as the Sorella logo is lower, it's placed lower on the umbrella in the early version. As you can see, it's kind of in the middle with nothing really dividing it, but in the final version there's that black band there, and then the Sorella logo is above it. Next we have the Nautilus, and for whatever reason in the early version the Nautilus was missing the color. So you know how some weapons change color depending on what color your Inkling or Octoling is at time. One of the most notable examples is the Heavy. It'll change colors with every different match, you know, and that's true for a lot of weapons, and Nautilus is one of those weapons. But if you can barely see right there in the middle, where I guess that like the rounded head of the Nautilus, where it connects to the rest of it, in the middle right there, you can kind of see the yellow. It's easier to see on the right side. You look in there, it's looks like it's not there, or it's just a lot darker for some reason. I guess they just forgot to color that part. But good thing they caught it. It's like I said, these are small tiny details that wouldn't normally notice, so I'm surprised some of these were caught. Next is the Splatbrella, and once again, say it with me, it has the Splatoon 2 color scheme, which was changed again to go more in line with Splatoon 3. I actually kind of like Splatoon 2's color scheme more, the red, white, and blue. Now, like the purple and white looks very clean, but I do like the red on it. And here, this is probably one of the hardest to notice, is the Splatana Stamper. The Inkling's eye color is different in the early version than it is in the final version. I know it may not look like it's any different, but trust me, it is. Even very slightly, it is different. It's just a small difference that it might as well not even be there. Next, we have my favorite section, actually, and these are badge icons. As you know, we can put badges on our banners after meeting certain requirements, and these are for all of the specials. And as you can tell right away, a lot of them are different. So for most of them, the accent color is lime green instead of cyan. For a lot of these, like the Tacticoolers, the Titty Missiles, the Trizuka, and even the Ink Vac right here. So I'm kind of glad they changed it because it looks very off-putting. The white and dark blue go well together, and then just having this light lime green kind of just throws it off a little bit. I like the lime green color in general, but it just doesn't really fit for this. Now, one of them that you may notice very immediately is that the triple ink strike badge actually looks like the suction bomb launcher icon instead of a triple ink strike. So maybe they just use this as a placeholder. As you can tell, all of them say test above them, so obviously they're testing this out in the development of the game. But it makes you wonder, was Bomb Rush supposed to come back in Splatoon 3? Because that would be really cool. I love Bomb Rush, alright? I love all the different type, and I like how they gave them to all the bombs. You got auto bomb launcher, curling bomb launcher, suction, burst, splat. Imagine a fizzy bomb launcher, that'd be terrible. But yeah, I really do like Bomb Rush, and I'm kind of disappointed it didn't come back in Splatoon 3. There's quite a few specials in Splatoon 2 that I really like that I wish came back in Splatoon 3. Like Baller, I liked Baller a lot. I loved Baller. It was so cool. It's not the greatest special, but it was very cool. Stingray, I don't know if I missed Stingray. Alright, that Stingray was kind of too overpowered. Now, Killer Whale that we have now in Splatoon 3, it's cool, it's alright, but I think I probably would have preferred Stingray, even if it is more annoying. It would just make the match even more hectic, and it would just be more fun, even if I'm getting tortured by Stingray. Ink Armor was cool, but the Ink Armor was kind of broken, so I can understand why they got rid of that. Because, you know, with Heavy Edit now, it'll just shred that. Speaking of Heavy Edit, bro, that weapon is amazing. I've been playing it non-stop. You see how fast Heavy Edit can just shred? See how fast Heavy Edit just shreds big bubblers? It can even shred Crab Tank. It's disgusting, alright? Just imagine how fast it'll shred Ink Armor. There'd be no point in even running it. Just throw some object shredder on Heavy Edit and you're done for. Just nothing you can do. Ink Armor, Crab Tank, Bubbler, it all just gets destroyed by Heavy Edit. That weapon is absolutely amazing. And another one that you may not have noticed is that Big Bubbler. The Big Bubbler icon is also different in the test version. It didn't have the squid beacon that is in the original version. Just like earlier, even in game itself, it didn't have the squid beacon inside of it that we see. So I like how they kept it congruent and made sure the badge matched the actual special. I know that seems like a little detail because it wouldn't really matter if the badge had. So no surprise, my laptop ran out of space as I was recording this, and I didn't realize until quite a ways in. So it cut off right here when I was talking about the Big Bubbler. But as I was saying, it wouldn't really matter if it's not entirely accurate, considering it's just a badge we're going to see on our banners, which isn't going to show up all that much in general. But it is nice that they took the time to make sure it was consistent. I like that. But another badge that is different from the final version is the Wave Breaker. Here we can see it actually has like actual waves of like walls of ink. So again, that begs the question, if Wave Breaker was going to be different in game, so it would actually shoot out these walls of ink instead of just like the expanding ring that it has, and we'd actually have to like full hop over it. That would be so cool. Wave Breaker would be so much better if the waves were actually higher and an actual threat. If they were just like raised up that looked like this, actual waves, and it sent out actual waves, then that would actually be a real Wave Breaker. That would be really cool. But everything else just looks relatively similar. I do think the change from lime green to cyan was a very nice addition. And the funny thing too is that even the suction bomb launcher, the accent color was pink and not even lime green. So they just completely overhauled Triple Ink Strike. Next, we have an unused emote. And this emote is unobtainable in the game as of now, but everyone can still use it. And that is the tricolor emote. Whenever we win a tricolor match on the attacking team, we use this emote where we're just crossing our arms and nodding. That we can only use it after winning a tricolor battle after attacking, but it is currently unobtainable through like general shop or catalog, whatever. So it having an unused icon like the rest of them kind of hints that maybe we're originally supposed to be able to unlock it, at some point, but then they decided against it because they wanted to keep it exclusive to Splatfest, kind of keep some of that special Splatfest magic, I guess. And some more uncut or some more cut content. This is for the story mode actually, and for this one I'm about to talk about, I don't have an image of it. I couldn't find an image for it, and if I do find one during editing, I'll put it in here. But apparently there was an image of a zapfish can be seen in Alterna with the upside down buildings, but as we know, as of base game, zapfish only appear in the crater and not in Alterna. So this was changed pretty late in development, as well as the next one. Also in the Return of the Mammalians trailer, we see Agent 8 taking in the sights of Alterna's buildings with this like mirrored world with the buildings on the top and bottom. However, we see Agent 3 with yellow ink tank and everything. But there are no levels in the game that have both this building background and yellow ink color. So I think all the levels we play through in this like background, we have blue ink or no ink at all. I'm not quite sure, but it's not yellow ink. And showing that this was in the trailer means they changed this pretty late in development. Not really too sure why they changed it, but it was a change. And now Alterna's overworld altogether is very different. Like the Alternan Space Center is very different, as well as Future Utopia Island. And to start, which is immediately apparent here, is the Future Utopia Island. I guess the dome, the sky dome was different. It was a lot more cloudier and darker, and even the lighting for it is originally more overcast to kind of reflect this cloudier and darker tone to kind of give it a more sense of realism. But I guess that would kind of impact gameplay, and it would just look a lot better if it was just a clear sky, because we'd be able to see everything clearer and it would just look a lot smoother. Also, the terrain in Future Utopia Island is different, causing several landmarks to be positioned slightly different. It's not too huge of a difference, but it is there. Another thing is that the numbers on the orange structure here in the middle do not overlap with the white indentation in the trailer, but in the final game they do. So that's something else that they changed. A lot of these were changes, relatively minor changes. Another one is that red tape can be seen on a piece of corrugated sheet metal when the new Squidbeak Splatoon introduces themselves, but in the final game the tape isn't there. Also, the spirit lifter is not covered with fuzzy ooze in this trailer, as you can see in the back there. I guess they maybe hadn't come up with that yet, and they just built the area first and then kind of built up the story around that. I'm really not sure, but they obviously still had a lot to work on by the time this trailer did come out. And the area between Rocket 1 and 2 in the Alternate Space Center sequence has graffiti on it not seen in the final game. If I can find a screenshot or a picture of that somewhere, I will put it up here. And the rocket service structure seen between Rocket 3 and 4 had less lighting, a differently placed prop, and no pipes above the player. And next, we actually have the new Salmon Run stage, Sockeye Station. Now this has several differences from the pre-release material to what we have now. The Aji Frye Tower originally did not have protrusions coming out of it. I'm not sure what that means. If maybe that's this big tower in the back we can see here. I'm not quite sure what it means by protrusions, maybe like the little deck or the thing on top. But I actually never even noticed this tower in the background to begin with. Is this even in the base game? I don't even remember that tower there. Okay, maybe I'm just stupid and don't pay attention, which would be true, but you know, I can't believe I never noticed that big ass tower right there. Also, the left side of the fortress did not protrude outward, instead coming inward like its opposite side. still not sure what it's saying there. I'm not going to list every single difference because they're kind of minor, and a lot of them I can't even notice myself. So if y'all want to look more into it, the source where I found all of this information will be linked in the description. I'm getting all this from the Wikipedia website, so that will be linked down here for this specific page for y'all to come see all of the differences in this list right here. But another thing for Salmon Run is the flipper flopper. In pre-release footage, the flipper flopper did not rebound on dive when its ring was painted over. Instead, it just immediately just fell over to its side. So it's presumed that they didn't have an animation for this at the time of this trailer releasing. They just kind of had the general concept but didn't have the animation of it slamming down into the ground, breaking its mask, and just flipper flopping over at that time. Also, the cooler that Mr. Grizz statue rests on did not originally have stickers, so it's just completely bare, but as we see in base game, it has stickers all over it. And this next one is actually pretty cool. So apparently the leg wear that Agent 8 wears in Octo expansion was originally supposed to be obtainable in game, like in Splatoon 3 through like amiibos and stuff for the Octoling girl and Octoling boy amiibos. You're going to get their respective leg wear. But if the game is modified so that these can be chosen by the player, it can be seen that both the skirt and pants have meshes to be used for both feminine and masculine styles. As the legwear is only used on the amiibo characters, the masculine style of the skirt and the feminine style of the pants go unused. So even though we had like the skirt for the females and then the shorts for males, both of them accommodated to both. So we could get feminine and male skirt and then feminine and male shorts. That's pretty cool. I don't think I've seen a game do that before where like the boy and girl options of like clothing, you could still have a boy and girl option of the boy and girl options. So that's really cool. It would have been cool if they added that in. I know it's just for amiibo, but maybe scanning the amiibo twice will give you both of them, or maybe it was just too much and too confusing to put both versions in. So instead of having all four, we just have the two basic ones we see in Octo expansion. Still pretty cool that there is Octo expansion content in Splatoon 3. Now the last one I'm going to be covering again is to do with Salmon Run, and this one's very interesting. In the trailer for Salmon Run Next Wave, the Booyah animation is incomplete, and when you press Booyah, you know, the Inkling like pumps their weapon up in the air. But as you can see here in this that was loud. You can see here in this section of the trailer, the animation is incomplete and the Inkling's mouth doesn't move when saying Booyah, which in the base game it does. Again, very minor details that while in gameplay you're not really going to notice this at all, since the camera will be facing your back, and even if it was facing front, the camera's so pulled out that you can't really see the Inkling's mouth anyway. So it just goes to show that the developers just took the time to like iron out a lot of these kinks. Though the game isn't perfect, Splatoon 3 isn't perfect, alright. A lot of stuff can still be fixed in terms of like some glitches. They could rework some of the maps, but that's more of like a not really a gameplay issue, but it would be nice for the maps to be different and be more open like Splatoon 2's. But these are talking about like technical issues. The map design isn't really a technical issue per se, as according to all of this, like these unused and unfinished animations. So Splatoon 3 was still relatively in an unfinished state when we saw it in the trailers, for all the trailers actually. So it's pretty cool to see a lot of the unused content. So there's quite a bit of unused content for Splatoon 3, even though it came out only a year ago and we're finding all of this. So I actually enjoyed making this video, and I might go back and make one for Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 1. Just go over the unused content for those games. And I'm going to like clean up the video a little bit, make it more organized. I'm kind of just like all over the place. I didn't write a script for this video because I didn't really think I needed to, so I might just write one for the next videos, or just, you know, focus my thoughts more. I tend to rant and go on long tangents all the time. So I'm going to clean it up and make it better and more, you know, digestible to watch. But yeah, I enjoyed this video, so I want to make more like cut content videos, look into some concept art, just a bunch of non-gameplay stuff. So yeah, hopefully y'all enjoyed this video, but that's really about it. If I find any more, obviously I'm gonna make more videos on it. But as of now, that's all that's on the Wikipedia website, at least for Splatoon 3. But yeah, that's really about it. So do next mission and play some goddamn Splatty. Now yesterday I uploaded a video about cut and unused content in Splatoon 3, and it did way better than I thought. Alright, just under 24 hours and it's already at like 5,000 views, so that kind of threw me off guard a little bit. And I was gonna do some more cut content for Splatoon 1 and 2 as well, but then I found even more content for Splatoon 3. So everything in the last video, I thought that was it, but not even close. We still have a lot more. So I'm going to make a second video about the cut Splatoon 3 content before moving on to the others. This first one is kind of, this might put me on a list. So for some reason in the Splatfest world premiere for Splatoon 3, the Inkling Girl model had rendered underwear, and only the Inkling Girl model. This was removed in the full game. As you can see here, it's just blanked out. But there used to be actual fully rendered underwear here. I'm not really too sure why that's the case, or if I should be even talking about this. This might put me on a list. But yeah, for some reason that's there. We have some unused facial features also. You see at the top here, freckles, and then at the bottom here is like scars across the eye. Not really too sure why they took these out. Maybe because it would be very hard to see, since it's already kind of hard to notice, especially the freckles here, and there's only these two options. But it's pretty cool that we are going to have even more character customization. There's also multiple different eyebrow shapes and pairs that were also cut from the game. We had two for each Inkling Boy, Inkling Girl, Octoling Girl, and Octoling Boy, so they all had their own different eyebrow shapes, which was pretty cool. And the dummy Splatfest image from Splatoon 2 with the egg and omelet also returns in this game, but has an added boiled egg for a third option, you know, to go along with deep cut, since it has 3 members. It's kind of funny that they brought this dummy image over and even added onto it. So maybe perhaps we will finally get this Splatfest, because neither in Splatoon 1 or 2 there was a Splatfest for like over easy egg or omelet and then just boiled eggs. So maybe we'll have this as an actual Splatfest sometime soon within the next year, since we still have about a year left of content to make. And even the art style of this banner is in like Splatoon 1 art style, which hasn't been used in 2 or 3. So they brought this all the way over from Splatoon 1 and they've had it in every game so far, which is kind of funny. Now this one I think is interesting. There are these 2 unused files for textures of Judd and Lil Judd, and by the size of them, it looks like maybe we were supposed to get banners of Judd and Lil Judd respectively. How we would unlock it maybe just be through shellout or catalog like any other banner, but it looks like we were supposed to get Judd and Lil Judd banners. Maybe we'll still get them later on. And the funny thing is that these were added in when the first wave of DLC dropped. So these weren't in the game before then. So as of version 3.0.1, when the first DLC wave dropped, these files were added into the game. So maybe we will get these as actual banners later on at some point, because it would make sense to have Judd and Lil Judd banners. We have all the idols, all right, and the other like important characters are Judd and Lil Judd, and we don't have them as banners yet. So it's kind of interesting to see those. Now, probably my favorite part is there are quite a bit of unused animations, specifically for Shiver and just regular Inkling or Octoling. Shiver has 3 unused animations, and these were going to be used for Splatfests. Not Splatfests, these were going to be used for the Anarchy Splatcast. So here's the animation right here, and it's notable that Frye and Big Man don't have any like equivalent animations like this. It's just Shiver, and this animation was actually scrapped early on as it only has the major poses mapped out. So this one is relatively unfinished and was scrapped pretty early. Next, this animation is identical to the one she has in base game, but for some reason her hair is sticking up like this. We don't really know what it was used for, but this animation was removed from the files of the game at some point. Yeah, it's kind of weird and creepy, interesting to see her hair up like that and seeing both of her eyes at once. And then the third one is similar to the second one. This is the pose she has after she completes the previous one, where she swings her arm and then she holds out her fan like this. But again, her hair is also pointed up. I'm not really sure why that was there. Maybe to like help render her face, and then it was put back down after. But this animation as well was also taken out of the files of the game. Now these ones, we have quite a few animations for when we win a 133 3x battle. And these animations are actually for, you know, if you win one of those battles and you get the picture on the Frye, Big Man, or Shiver float, and we can select certain poses. These next animations are unused animations for poses for on the float. So I'm just gonna kind of play a little montage of them here so you can see all of them, because there's quite a few of them and they're not all too different or really anything to know. So I'm gonna just play them all back to back right here. And in the last video, I showed off a section of all of the badges for the specials and how some of them are different. But we have more badges that have also changed between the beta and the final versions. We have the Salmon Run badges. All of the boss Salmonids have their render from Splatoon 2. All of the returning ones, at least. All of the new bosses that were introduced in Splatoon 3 just have a basic Salmonid placeholder, with just each having different outlines. All the new ones you can see on screen right now. And we can see all of the beta versus the final ones here for all of the boss Salmonids. A lot of their designs were changed, and they were all given a black outline to help make them more noticeable on the badge. And in speaking of badges, we have more, and these are actually from the story mode. We have some for Octavio, Captain Cuttlefish, Callie, Marie, and Mr. Grizz. All of these were also just given a black outline to make it more noticeable and pop out more on the banner. Also, the no chill emote icon was actually changed from the launch version onward. It was just the Inkling standing here normally, and then it was changed to what we have in the game now. Next, this one is pretty interesting. The lobby terminal in the lobby, of course, has a different design for the screen and for itself. We can see the beta design here, and even the screen itself was a lot different. You can see here that there are more likely rectangles instead of the squares we have for each section. And it looks like there might have been a scroll menu, because in the final game we have 8 here, and in the early design we only had 6. so far as we see. So they probably changed it to fit everything all on one screen and just changed the rectangles to squares, since it would be easier than having to scroll, and it just kind of wouldn't look that great if we had to scroll to get to the other menus. I like the one we have now. That looks a lot better. And I don't know if this is intentional, but the beta version, like the background, I guess, for it kind of reminds me of when a Splatfest is getting announced. It kind of has a like hazy green distorted TV kind of look. This kind of looks like that. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that was a pretty nice detail that I noticed. Next, we have an unused variant of the Splatfest pledge box. It looks incomplete due to lacking proper textures and using simplistic blocky geometry. So here's like an early render of the pledge box with the screen and everything. I think the screen looks different too. It looks like it's more bowing in instead of out like it does in the final game. I don't know if that's of any importance, but this next one kind of confused me a little bit. We have an extremely unfinished model of Splatsville during a Splatfest. While there are textures, none of them are directly applied to the model. So I don't even know what we're supposed to be looking at here. Obviously, this is supposed to be Splatsville, and I think these grates might be fences. I'm not really sure. Also, in the files of the game, we had some unused and unobtainable weapons, a lot of them being enemy weapons. But we have unobtained Amiibo weapons, and these are actually pretty cool. And this, assuming it means what I think it means, this would have been a really cool addition to Splatoon 3. So the weapons seen on the Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2 Amiibos are left in, completely functional. All of them are 200 points for special, a reoccurring theme for weapons never meant to be used in the game. So 200 points is just like a placeholder, I guess. But all of these Amiibo weapons that we could have gotten, they function exactly the same as Splatoon 3. So I guess they're kind of just like skins for them. So the first one is basically the Splatoon 1 skin for the splatter shot we could have gotten from the orange Inkling Girl and blue Inkling Boy amiibos. Next was the same thing, but for Tentatech splatter shot, we could have gotten from the Inkling Girl lime green amiibo and the Inkling Boy purple amiibo. Third one is the splatter shot, but it's designed from Splatoon 2 that we would have gotten from the green Inkling Boy amiibo. And finally, the last one, the E-Leader's design from Splatoon 2, we would have gotten from the Octoling Girl amiibo. And here we actually have some unobtainable rival weapons. So the rival Octolings in the Return of the Mammalians in the story mode actually have their own weapon entries. So the weapons they use actually have their own weapon entries. I have some for the Blaster, Octobrush, Splat Dualies, Splat Rollers, Splatbrella, Octoshot, the Splatoon 3 Octoshot, and then Splatoon 1 and 2 Octoshot models as well, and Slosher. They each have their two different entries. I'm not really too sure why. A version 1 and a version 2. As well as the Inkzooka from Splatoon 1 has some code in the data. The Inkzooka special from Splatoon 1 is left over in the files with various traces of data left in the files. It has its own parameter set completely unique to Trizooka or any other special and is able to be loaded. When activated, it is able to throw bombs and move around, but crashes the game as soon as a shot is attempted to be fired. So you can actually have the Inkzooka in game, but you can't really use it because it'll crash the game, as it just said. Also, I wasn't able to download it, but there are some unused copies of the Splatoon 2 lobby music. If I can download it and somehow get it to play, I'll have it up right here. but there were 3 identical versions, one for the day, one for the night, and one for Splatfest. And this next one is actually very interesting. I like this one a lot. There were apparently 2 unused game modes, or 3 unused salmon run modes, like limited salmon run modes. So kind of just like salmon run Splatfests, or list the equivalents for those. There are 3 of them called Underground, Pair, and Contest. Underground is a harder version of salmon run with various changes. And the changes are every boss has 30% more HP and moves 30% faster. Alright, just that alone is just terrifying. And then 2 of the bosses that spawn will drop large golden eggs, roughly the same size as the golden eggs seen in Return of the Mammalian's final boss battle, which add 5 eggs to the counter each. And then the quota increases faster than regular, having a +3, +5, and +7 quota. Now, unfortunately, Pair has no data within the files except for just the name. And the 3rd game mode, called Contest, was later adapted into extra work starting with fresh season of this year. So one of these unused game modes we actually got reworked into extra work. So maybe at some point they'll add Underground, because that one actually seems really interesting. Okay, Underground would be so cool. This is kind of like a challenge mode, all right? Kind of like Bringer of Chaos from Xenoblade 2, but for Salmon Run. That would be really cool. We actually have some unused badges for Pair and Underground. So here we can see the capsules for the Underground and Pair are different from what we have in game. And comparing the Pair and Underground badges, and the Underground badges are a bit darker than the Pair badges, at least for the bottom. And it looks like the bottoms are also more rounded too, so it's kind of like a higher view on these. For some reason, the only Pair badge is this yellow one over here on the left, is similar to the Underground badges, but all the rest of them kind of have damn near a straight line. So perhaps these were cut early in development after they, worked on all the Underground badges. They're like halfway through the Pair badges and it was like, yeah, you know what, let's just not use these anymore. And apparently there's data for an unused Splatfest. A Splatfest was accidentally uploaded to the game's BCAT system on December 2nd of last year instead of the spicy versus sweet versus sour Splatfest. However, a key for the Splatfest was never distributed, so it's impossible to access any of the data within it, only existing as a set of encrypted pack files. I actually have the file for the unused Splatfest, so if you want to look at the data and everything, it's going to be in the description if y'all want to look at that. And next we actually have some oddities for Nails. Now if you don't know who Nails is the shop owner for Not Couture alongside Gnarly Eddie. Gnarly Eddie is his employee, so the shop is actually run by Nails and Eddie is his employee. But he's that tiny little snail you can see next to Eddie's feet. And he actually has an eye texture that is never seen in game. And we can't see it because he's always wearing his glasses. That's really about it for Nails, just that one little piece. He has an eye texture that goes unused that we never get to see. We also have some naming oddities for quite a few things. One of the city or plaza Inklings walking animations is known as Walk Plaza Harley Quinn. I don't know what Harley Quinn has to do with that, but maybe they had something for it. And internally, Respawn Punisher ability is known as Exorcist. Now, as far as I know, we don't really have an explanation for this or why it's called this, but I think it's probably a good idea that they changed it, because Exorcist just doesn't really sound like it would fit in a Splatoon game. Alright, exorcising the fucking cephalopod demons. But this was actually also in Splatoon 2. Respawn Punisher was also called Exorcist. So we're not really sure why that is. But the next one is about Splatana Stamper, and internally in the game's files it's known as Normal Splatana under the name Weapon Saber Normal, despite being considered a more advanced variant, since Splatana Wiper is the normal one and Stamper is like a modified version of that. So it's kind of funny that Stamper is referred to as the normal one in the game files. And Umami Ruins and Undertow Spillway's internal names are Factory and Temple respectively. Despite Umami Ruins resembling an Egyptian temple and Undertow Spillway having factory elements. So I guess these names were just swapped somewhere by accident. Undertow looks more like a factory and Umami looks more like a temple. So maybe the names just got switched around. The latter name likely comes from the stage's inspiration, the metropolitan area outer underground discharge channel in Kasukabe Saitama, which is occasionally referred to as an underground temple. That one's actually kind of a cool detail. Now this next one, Splatoon 3 was also supposed to have a different home menu icon, you know, as like the one we see here on the right. This is the one we have now with the 3 Inklings and Octoling, whereas it was going to originally be this one with the logo and just a bunch of stickers around it. And they most likely went with the one on the right to kind of be congruent with Splatoon 2, since for the Splatoon 2 home menu icon it also has the 2 Inklings like butting heads together with the logo above it. So it's just to stay consistent with what we already have. Now there's quite a bit more of unreleased content, but a lot of it is just files and different file names and all that. And I don't know anything about code. I can't read code. A lot of it is just different coding, like name, a bunch of other debug stuff. So that's not really worth going over, but I'm getting all of this from the cutting room floor. So if y'all want to look at all the debugs, or if y'all are more like code savvy than I am, y'all can come look at everything here. Again, link will be in the description. So I love looking at cut and unused content in games, especially for Splatoon. It's kind of cool to see a lot of ideas be reused, because some ideas here were actually reused. But yeah, that's really about it for Splatoon 3 cut content, at least for now. If I find any more, I'll make a video again if there's enough to make another video. But next I'm gonna look into cut and unused content for Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 1. So I'm gonna do the whole series. All right, it's gonna be like a little mini series of going over unused and cut content. So I think it's gonna be pretty cool. My last video did very well, so y'all are definitely interested. So I'm gonna make some more for 2 and 1. But that's really about it for this video. So see you next mission and play some goddamn Splatty.